Hi, everyone. Ashley Stamatinos here. I have a special treat for you today. I'm so excited to share with you my amazing friend, Alexis. Welcome.
Hi, Ashley. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to be here.
I'm so excited that you were able to join me. And before we jump in, we have so many things that we would love to share with you today. Before we do, I'd like to introduce Alexis to you. So Alexis Cohen is a visual artist, a woman's creativity mentor, a shamanic practitioner. Alexis supports women as they heal and strengthen their connection to their power and intuition so that they can birth their creative work into the world. Women are stepping up in a new and powerful way, and Alexis is passionate about supporting this new rising of tide of women creatives, healers, and innovators. Oh, this is so exciting.
Woo!
So Alexis supports women through all their creative processes, including art, writing, ceremony, and childbirth. With a decade-long background as a doula, Alexis finds that her work as birth or in birth has beautifully woven into her current practices and has transformed the way that she sees her life and the lives and experiences of her clients. So again, welcome, Alexis.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. This is going to be so fun. I love speaking
Yeah,
with you.
me too. I shot her an email, and we've been chatting for quite a while, off and on, interviewing each other. And actually, I guess this is the first time I've interviewed you.
Yeah.
I sort of feel like I've done it before. Maybe I have, some other thing. Um, but I just have had such a lovely connection with you, and I really wanted to have a deeper conversation. And I know you've been able to ask me a bunch of questions, and I have been wanting to put the spotlight on you and really hear more about your experience. And
Awesome.
I am just so fascinated. So let's kind of start from the beginning. And I
Okay.
think the first question I'd really like to ask you is just sort of, because I know more about you, tell everybody who's listening a little bit more about you and your journey that brought you here to this, place that you are now.
I love that question because you can answer it differently every time someone asks this question. So it's right. So it's like, okay, where am I today and what led me to this point today? Well, I think that, to sum it up, really, I feel like I've always been a student of creativity.
Mm.
And, really, so I first started off, I've always done art, but where it really started moving for me, like, oh, okay, I see what it is that I'm here to do.
Mhm.
When I started to train as a doula.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in this birthing class. It was actually a hypnobirthing class. I was already a shamanic practitioner and a hypnotherapist. So I was already doing that work. I was training as a doula. I was making art. So all of these paths were coming together. And I was sitting in a class, and I don't exactly know what the teacher said, but everything lit up inside of me around like, okay, birth energy, this creative power that is essential to women, was completely co-opted, was taken from women. And I feel like my work in the world is to help women reconnect with this power, with their creative power that is so essential, is their birthright. And
Yeah.
so I started doing that work through birth. But I always knew that, being a doula, it was a part of the puzzle. I wasn't going to be a doula forever. But again, I entered into that work as a student of this creative power. And it was fascinating. I learned pretty much everything about creativity and the way that creative power moves through a woman's body, how she opens to it, how she shuts it down,
Mhm.
you know, yeah, just that dance with creative power. And then I became very interested in, okay, how can I support her in really surrendering to this power? Because I worked with a lot of women. Most of the women that I worked with were looking for a natural birth.
Okay.
That was just the population that I worked with. So it became this commitment, like, okay, I need to do all the same work alongside of the women. Like, just saying I want a natural birth, we're, living in a culture where we don't see it very much. So there's some work that we need to do as women to heal and reconnect to that body's wisdom in order to step into that power more deeply. So yeah, I got really interested in, okay, what is the best way to help prepare women for this huge rite of passage where they're opening up to this creative power that we don't talk about very much, that we're often scared of, right? Women can be very scared of, like, women are scared of childbirth, but often it's the power that they're scared of. They say it's like the pain, but it's really the power.
I love that. I had not heard it explained that way. That makes so much sense. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so it was like, okay, so what is the work that we can do beforehand to help a woman start to get really connected and not comfortable, but more familiar with that creative power. And, as a woman was approaching this initiation, that creative power started to make contact, and sometimes things come to the surface for clearing. There's old wounding or old patterns that no longer work. And this happens for any initiation, but I saw it for the first time very clearly when I was working with birthing women. And so in order to truly support them, I had to really go on the path with them. It was this really intense, wonderful, beautiful time. I was a doula for a lot, like I would be like 3 or 4 births a month for 10 years.
A lot.
For about a decade. Yeah, it was really intense, for 300 births, and really high success rate with natural births because the women were so committed and they were prepared to meet this creative power and surrender and relax into it. And I did the same thing. So alongside them, I was as an artist, I didn't realize it, but I was pretty blocked. I was making small stuff, nothing, I wasn't, I was making stuff, but not at the level of where I wanted to go. And so when I started to do this deeper work alongside the birthing women, everything kind of popped open, and I cleared myself. It was like this healing as a block artist, and I was able to do bigger work, do commissions. I made a book. Like it just allowed more creative power to come through. And so that's really what I do with women now. I'm a creativity mentor, and I work with women to support them as they birth their creative visions. And it's using all of those same techniques. So aligning with your creative cycles, your body, your womb, your power as a woman to bring forward a project. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, but really accessing that creative power so you can bring your visions to life.
Amazing. And oh my gosh, there's so much beauty in what you explained. And the way that you explained it sounds so accessible. And I do think that you're right, that so many people have so many fears because that's sort of the norm of what's explained and sort of the general population. That's sort of what's out there. And I love that there are people like you ushering in or supporting and nurturing is probably the word, nurturing that shift and change in mindset, realignment, sort of a rewiring even, to help them understand what's possible instead of, be afraid of what might go wrong or what's bad or what's, to avoid or resist. And a lot of what you're saying too, which I resonate so much with, is it sounds like, and this is just my language, you might have a different word for it, but it sounds like you're sort of helping people to become more in allowance with their bodies, with their life, with their femininity, with the womb, with birthing, and sort of on every level. It just sounds more in flow versus resistance. Does that feel true to what you're doing?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's a blossoming, and it's, what I would say to women when they were birthing human babies and creative babies. It's a personal. It's like you are becoming the vessel that can birth it. So that you're in a process of transformation and allowing and opening, so what wants to come through can come through with greater ease.
Yeah. And truly, I love that I'm still so much thinking about, the fear of the power, not the fear of the pain. When you were speaking specifically about birthing a child, and it does really transfer over to business, women in business, sort of being afraid to become successful or to do well or to have paying clients because they do want them, but then there's so much power there that it's scary. So when you're working with people, how do you support them through that?
That's a really good question. Man.
I do.
Yeah, no, it's so great. I mean, I don't know if you can relate to this too, but I can just as an entrepreneur relate to that so much as well. Again, I see it as the same thing. So it's like a massaging of the internal and the external. So, so in shamanism is very focused on power. And becoming more intimate with power. So through using the different tools of shamanism, internally connecting and becoming more intimate with power. And, power, like birthing energy it's so loving. It's catalytic too. It's really transformative. So through some internal processes like what's called a shamanic journey, and it's an active form of meditation. Those processes can really help a woman start to understand what it feels like to hold more of their power. Like, and you do a lot of energy work, like energetically, what does that feel like in her system to hold greater power, higher frequency? And then, the other piece is clearing any energy or resistance that might be disrupting her energy or her power force. That's another tool in shamanism. And then there's just the straight up piece where, when you're growing, when there's more power coming in and you're moving in a particular direction, there's stretching, right? Like in birth, there's stretching.
So interesting. Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
And it's not necessarily comfortable, but it doesn't have to be. It's birth. So, coming up with different ways that particular woman can stretch and open is really important. And then a lot of conversation around the normalcy of it being uncomfortable. Just like I would, like if a woman was in birth was saying this is uncomfortable, just giving her the reassurance that this is normal is like, I had a mentor say that to me today. I'm doing a really big project and I was telling her all about it. And she's like, oh, this is great. You're growing. And it was like, okay, yes. Right. Great reminder.
Great.
Thank you.
Reminder.
Yes.
That happens with me in my business too. I will, share things with people over and over again, and I can always see it. Then sometimes it comes up in my world and I don't even recognize that this is what I'm helping everybody else with. And oh yeah, right. Anyway.
Totally. Right.
It's so funny. You just need a different perspective, someone from the outside looking in, because we get so focused sometimes.
Yeah.
So what I'm curious about, because I know that you're so intuitive and so in touch and so aware. And one of the things we first connected on was that we're both highly sensitive people and proud of it. It's like, that's a beautiful thing. And to me personally, I always say that highly sensitive people to me means highly aware people. Yeah. So I first, are you a highly sensitive person? Get people to sort of relate to that. And then once I have your attention, everybody who's listening, I then, shift gears and really what I think is so beautiful about being highly sensitive is how aware you are. So I'm wondering, A, what was your path to recognizing that you were highly sensitive or highly aware? And B, do you find that you attract a lot of highly sensitive or highly aware people within your business?
That's a great question. I love talking about this with you. I don't know. I can't remember a time of not knowing I was a highly sensitive person. It was definitely pointed out to me quite a bit. And it was just something I always knew about myself, but actually I didn't see it as a very positive thing. I felt like it was something, that people look down upon, and it was something that I had to overcome a lot or hide, you know? So I didn't start really seeing it as a real gift until I started working in shamanism, where I was like, oh, these are gifts, like being highly aware of realms other than this one, like being very aware of energy, of feeling it through all of my senses. This is actually a superpower. You know, this can actually, I can use this to be of great service to my clients, to the people around me, because it's like you can feel underneath what people are saying or sharing, or, you know, like you can really feel people.
Right.
You know, and then it's like the whole, you know, as you're initiated onto that path as a healer, it's like, you know, and we've talked about a lot. It's like, okay, how do you then move through life without taking on everyone's stuff? So that for me, the shamanic training was really helpful for that, to know what my energy was, how to be really compassionate, to really hold in compassion as opposed to empathy, like feel like taking on everything all of the time.
Can you define how you view compassion?
Sure. So this is straight. So my teacher, Isa Gucciardi, I'm going to give her mad props for this one.
Okay.
Isa Gucciardi of Sacred Stream, really foundation of the Sacred Stream in Berkeley. It's an incredible school for shamanic practices and Buddhist studies. And she would talk about this difference between compassion and empathy. And so I'll just describe it actually in a birth environment.
Okay.
So she had another example. I'm going to leave that for her. So giving it in the birth example. So if a woman is birthing, if I'm empathetic, right? Like I'm in a birthing space, and I really strengthen this in birth. Like this woman is going through it. And being empathetic is I am taking on all of her whatever is coming up for her. So if she's suffering in the process, I'm taking on the suffering. I'm like feeling everything she's feeling, and I'm actually getting bogged down. I'm not really of great service in that role. But if I'm holding in compassion and merging, again, from shamanic perspective with my guides and really grounding energetically, being a ground in the space, I can ground in the field of compassion. And it's like I help to hold a container, and I could be having my own experience of watching a woman going through labor, but I'm not taking on her experience. I'm grounding and helping to hold a space, and I'm witnessing her.
That's amazing. That's so perfectly illustrated. That makes so much sense. And I hope that helps so many of you listening or watching, because that, I think so many of you listening, I'm guessing, are probably empaths that are having extreme empathy, holding on to, you know, feeling, pulling all of those sensations and symptoms and emotions into you, like you just described. And then there's also the possibility of choosing to shift gears into compassion and look at it externally as they are dealing with it and they are processing their own. And how do I want to process this in my own personal way without processing it as they are? So I thank you so much for offering that, because I think that was a really beautiful explanation, and it helps me too to have other stories and ways of explaining it. So that's really wonderful. And so you do feel like you also have a lot of your clients tend to be sensitive?
Oh, that's right. That question too.
I know. I should never ask two in a row.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I work with creative women, you know, like that, like artists, entrepreneurs, visionaries. It's a necessary, like being highly sensitive. It's kind of goes with the job description in a lot of ways, because they're again opening to these different creative realms. And so it's again really working with it as a gift. But yeah, definitely work with a lot of sensitive women.
Okay, amazing. Okay, so you're working with all of these amazing sensitive women. What is a tool that you can offer us? Because I think a lot of the people listening are women who are sensitive also, just like your clients. So what's something you can offer to help us through something we might be experiencing?
That's a good question. So what do I say? What do I offer my sensitive ladies? So what's coming to mind is allowing yourself to cry.
Oh.
Carving some space out to be with your heart and just feeling your heart, and crying for a sensitive person. It's like, this is gonna sound a little hard, it's like peeing. It's just like the way. It's like you just have to let it go, and it's like we do hold on to so much that, like, yeah, just carving. I know for me, like, if I don't, my husband's so good about it. Like, he can just look at me and he's just like, bring it in. And like,
Sweet.
right. And it just like, and I just need to cry. And one time I asked him, what do you do when I cry? Because it's just a release. He knows nothing is wrong and I'm just letting go. And he's like, I go, meow, 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 meow. I'm like, we're perfect. Yeah, we're a good match.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I've never. Yeah, let yourself cry. I do. I think you're so right. That's such a great suggestion, such a great tip, tool, reminder, because I find that so many people are suppressing their sensitivities to the point where they're about to burst or they're going to get sick, or a lot of the people that you might encounter might be suppressing their feelings and emotions so much that it suppresses their creativity.
Right.
You find that that's something that comes across your
absolutely
page?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a way, and I don't know if we've talked about this before, but like, when you're highly sensitive, we try to figure out, we did talk about this because we're talking about boundaries. There are all of these ways that we create boundaries, right? And so one way is we freeze, right? Like we get kind of frozen. So like nothing can come in, but then nothing comes out. And so it's like, it's like frozen.
Yes.
Like there's nothing moving. So like crying, it like melts the ice.
I love that. That's so true. It's so, so, so true. And we really need to at least acknowledge what we're experiencing so that we don't bottle it up and stop the flow of energy. Because I think a lot of times when people get burnt out, super overwhelmed, super stressed, feeling defeated or fearful of the future, a lot of that is a symptom of stuck energy, of not expressing what's inside, or even suppressing, maybe putting up boundaries that are like, a steel eggshell because you're afraid to handle everything. So, I mean, again, like, let me just sort of, put that in your court. So let's say that you do have someone, I know that you just explained, that there's no movement, but what's something else you could say maybe on top of it to take it a step further for people who are really stuck, and they're feeling sort of petrified of taking the next step? I mean, I do see that. They feel like they have no tools. They don't know what to do. They know that they were creative and that they could be, but they're not right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, so what they're dealing with is creative resistance.
Yes.
And right. And so this is all, I was just talking to a client about this. It's never about fighting it, right? Or like being pissed at it or whatever. It's like that creative resistance or that fear is there for a reason. And the thing is they, like, someone who is experiencing so much fear about something, it's because they're actually this close to a creative breakthrough. And that's why all the fear is coming up, right? Like going back to that fear of power, like the fear is so strong because it is doing everything it possibly can to keep that power at bay, to keep you at small.
Yes.
So if we shift it and we're not afraid of the fear, if we approach the fear from a friendly place, a loving place,
it's different.
An understanding place, like start communicating with it. So something that I would offer is like you can write a letter to it. So if you're feeling a lot of fear or creative resistance, you can write a letter to the fears, asking why it's there, and then just have the creative resistance or fear write you a letter back. and hear what it has to say. Like, why is it there? Oftentimes it's trying to protect you, and you can open up this dialogue and, you know, communicate with the fear that you actually don't need it any longer,
Right.
and that you're shifting into something else. And oftentimes there's some movement there.
That's super powerful. So I would like to take you back for a moment,
Yes.
because I wanted to kind of wait until a little bit later in the interview to go to go here. But so I did hypnobirthing. I had a doula, for those of you who don't know, and probably no one knows. I don't really share that very often, but I had a doula when I was birthing my son, and I went through hypnobirthing, and I had natural childbirth, and it was a really beautiful process. And the thing that I would love to ask you about, and I think I'd like to ask you about it in the context of being a doula, and then, you know, within your business also, because I bet it's similar. When I was pregnant, and I'll be honest, for a couple of years before I was pregnant, I was in communication with my child. And I was like talking to my child, and I knew, you know, how many I was going to have, and I knew exactly what my little boy was going to look like. And my husband was having the same dreams of what he looked like, and we would write it down and tell each other.
Wow.
And, you know, he's almost 5, and he looks just like that. He's just like everything we thought. He told us he's going to be super telepathic, and he was. And it was just a really interesting experience. So I would love if you could just share some experiences of that sort of, you know, maybe the conversations you had with some of those soon-to-be moms about talking to their child or getting in touch with the process. Like, it's so juicy to me. What can you share with me? I'd love to.
Oh yeah. That was a huge part of the work that I would do with women. And I loved when women were really open to it. And the women who were planning natural birth, they overall were really open to that. So yeah, I mean, one of my best friends is coming to mind. She also did a lot of communication with her daughter before her birth, and just got a huge download about the information, what her daughter was coming in to do, like just total two of my really good friends had that experience. It's so funny. It was such a natural part of the prep that the women were connecting to the child, because the child, it's their birth, right? And it's the mother moving out of the way so the child can be born. So a woman connecting to the wisdom and the intelligence of that being is a really key piece in, you know, the birth flowing in a particular way.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And it's so fun too that it's so second nature to you that just, 300 births, most of them were like this, just organically. I'm thinking that it's probably because your energy is attracting those types of people who are so in tune with their bodies, in tune with energy, capable and willing to be in touch with their intuition. Because I attract that within my business and with my friends, but like in my family and, you know, close by, I see also the opposition of people like, I'm going to eat whatever I feel like, you know, I'm not going to listen to what my body or my baby wants. I'm just going to, you know, have the baby and pass it off, and I'm going to go back to work. None of that's wrong. It's just so different than the way that we're functioning, because the way that we're talking about is when you're so highly sensitive and you're so in tune, you're listening to the ebb and flow and the energy, everything. It's like you're getting massive amounts of information all the time. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you're bringing up a really good point. Just like as a practitioner, you're absolutely right. Like I attracted, and also I would always see, like when I would, you know, have consultations, because this is such a big experience, really making sure it's the right fit, you know, that I was the right practitioner for them, and, you know, that it's just the right fit, and that I'm going to be essentially in my zone of genius in that place, like really step into that. So I worked with, like I was saying, most women who are wanting a particular birth, and it was San Francisco, and there's a lot of information about this, but it was absolutely a big part of the preparation. And actually what's really interesting to me, what's coming up when you're asking this question about the spirit babies, is I was doing a lot of work with fertility, and clients that in my shamanic practice that, maybe were having some difficulty getting pregnant. And, it's very medicalized at that, when they're doing fertility treatments. And it was really cool to bring in the spiritual aspect and work with the spirits of the babies coming in and what the babies were needing. And then also there's what I have found quite often is that when women are creatively blocked, it's usually, most of the time, it's usually connected somehow to their reproduction, like the womb space. So doing work, like if a woman's had an abortion or miscarried and it hasn't been fully processed, we do work there. And sometimes the babies come in there for some deeper work that needs to happen.
That makes so much sense. I'm so glad that you're sharing this, and we're spreading the word out there to let people know about this and to let them know that you do this kind of work to help people, because I know, so many people who've done IVF. So I can't even, more than 10, close. It's very, very interesting. And now that we have, you, who has information, awareness, and processes to help us break through any infertility, or at least look at different possibilities to see, what might be able to be cleared, to maybe give you a little bit more ease with the process. I think that's so great to acknowledge, because sometimes we only know what's presented to us. And so I'm so glad you're presenting this as an option, because I just think a lot of people don't know that it's possible to do those types of clearings with, reproductive systems or old stagnant energy from miscarriages, abortions, or whatever, right?
Yeah. And I have some clients where after we've done some work together, like they haven't had their period in a year, and then we do this deeper work and they get their period. Those are some great calls. Like, I got it last night. But it's like focusing, this is, the womb is the creative center for a woman. So becoming intimate with it, not only when you're pregnant, like I don't have children. And so for a long time I was ignoring my womb, and that didn't work.
Didn't work for you.
That didn't work. And so, it's like, okay, it's like really paying attention to that part and like what information it has for you.
It really sounds like you have such a common theme with everything that you've shared about getting people back into flow, or more into flow, like literally and figuratively, within their creativity, within their bodies, with their womb, with everything. Do you agree? Do you sound,
I do. And I was thinking today, I was like, oh yeah, it's helping women come back to life.
Ooh, yeah. Do you find that a lot of women are not fully living?
Yes.
Yeah. What does that look like? What are some of the signs?
Well, lack of energy, depression, anxiety, lethargy, disease of some kind, sickness on an emotional or physical level. Just low vibration, low, just heaviness.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that too. So some of these symptoms might mean that you're not, fully living. And so it's getting more into living and being invigorated with life once again. There's such a different place to be, and that is absolutely possible. And it doesn't have to be super challenging to get there. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And it's, everyone's in a different spot. And I'm saying, it's a big generalization. Like, when I think of, the women that I know, it's everyone's in a different spot. So it's bringing more life, like coming, when I look at my clients, every time I see them, there's just like more life in them, right? Because they're just bringing more creative flow into their systems in their life. So it's like, just a wellspring of like power coming back into their lives. So so it can be actually pleasurable. Yeah.
Pleasurable. I don't even feel like I hear a lot of people talk about that. Truly, how lovely would it be to get pleasure from your life? We're almost to the end of this, but this is very inspiring to me, having this conversation with you. I was on the internet today, and I saw a Brennan Burchard ad, And he said something, and I just thought it was so brilliant. He said, if you're having trouble in your relationship, and you're complaining about it, what have you done to create a lovely experience versus just sitting around waiting, tapping your foot on the floor saying, well, it's not working, and putting all of the pressure on the other person to create or to appeal or to, please you or something like that, or to, create joy. So I was like, oh yeah, what can I create today that would be enjoyable? And, so is this making your wheels spin? Are you sort of?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. What can I create today? And so asking that question is just allowing yourself to be an active co-creator of your life. Yep.
Totally. Not just following the stuff that falls on your plate.
Yeah.
Do that. That's amazing. So, all right. So we're finishing up here. I would love to know what is your one sort of encouraging piece of advice, or just maybe even just words of encouragement to some of the viewers who are struggling and they would love to thrive more in their lives?
What's coming to mind, dear lovely people, is that you have got this. You have got this. You can do this. You are loved and you are supported. And if you're feeling alone, reach out to people around you for support. But you can do this. You can take that step closer to yourself and to your dreams. You've absolutely got this.
You're so heartfelt saying that. I felt like, so wonderful hearing that. Yes, I could do it.
You could do it. You could do it.
But yeah, it felt really good. So I know that you have some really wonderful things to share with everyone. Can you just at least, at the minimum, tell everyone how they can stay in touch with you, please?
Yes, please stay in touch with me. I guess there'll be a link to my website. So it's alexiscohen.org. You can shoot me an email at info@alexiscohen.org. If you're interested in speaking with me, I'm offering a complimentary session. It's a phone call. It's called a creative growth mapping session. And in this session, we'll hone in on your creative vision and we'll address any obstacles or blocks that might be getting in your way and talk about a strategy to move you closer to your dreams.
Cool. Yes. And are you also active on social media?
I am. So yeah, Alexis Cohen.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll post links of all of her social media too. So you can go to her website, you can stay in touch, and then you can have the social media. I always think it's really fun to do the social media too. I'm pretty addicted myself. So, well,
awesome.
What'd you say? Oh, yeah.
So that's great. I'm actually getting an assistant, so they'll do that soon.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. So you'll be more active soon. So whenever people are listening, you'll probably be really revving it up at that point. So I hope everyone who's listening will continue to take the next steps with Alexis and take her up on, getting connected with her. And be sure to subscribe to the series and get involved in the conversation. And both of us would so love to hear from you. So please comment in the area below and both of us will reply. So please go ahead and comment and let us know if you have any questions. We're here for you. And thank you again for joining us. And thank you, Alexis, for joining me. I'm so grateful that you were here.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Ashley. And thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.